the second case, I'm in thing and I'm getting ready to come up to it, and so I have a call down to go see the attorney, or a legal visit, and I go see this attorney, and they have this really good-looking gal, about 5'10", blonde attorney, sharp. She says, "I've been appointed your attorney." That's why they sent a good-looking gal. Which is, might be less argument.
Put you up,
yeah, right. Yeah, not a chance. So,
not
happening.
Come on.
So,
is this the end of your 4 months now? Is this what you're
coming up to the end of the 4 months, and they're going to bring up the second supervised revocation case. First one settled. All I get was a contempt charge, but it's settled. So she says, I've been appointed your attorney. I said, well, I conditionally accept. You accept private compensation. She says, I can't do that. We have a hearing on Wednesday and blah, blah, blah. I says, what's we? And we have this 45-minute conversation. She's so good. No matter what I say, she just gloss over it with a confession and avoidance and on to the next thing, And I was back and forth, and I was having fun because I wasn't nervous anymore, and I had it down pat with, offer and acceptance and how to manipulate her and all this. I said, well, you're just an attorney, right? She said, yeah. I said, can you do anything but argue? Well, no.
But what does that mean exactly? So the attorney can't do a conditional, or
the rules of court? No, they can't do conditional acceptances.
And they can't do other things?
There's a lot of things they can't do. They're bound by the rules. Like you submit, you're the attorney and you file the complaint. I get the complaint, I conditionally accept it, give it back to you in the court, right? You can't put in another answer to mine. Next hearing we're going to have is based on whether I can hold my mud on my counteroffer.
I can throw out new offers and see if you bite on them.
In verbal when we're there.
Oh, but not in writing.
But you can't respond to mine in writing. That's unacceptable in court. I can respond to every writing you do. They have rules they're bound by. They're there to get you your remedy. Believe it or not. You just got to know the rules.
They can't respond in writing to...
Some stuff they can, but not the way we do.
But they could send out endless new offers in writing.
Yes, they can.
At some point, does that become frivolous? If I don't like somebody and I'm a lawyer, can I just send them a offer that they're a criminal every week? Or does that start to become harassment or something?
Well, it'll be just like Juanita and I just did on one of her things. If you want to continue to collect on a debt that's already been paid, blah, 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 then that may be construed as fraud and may incur a $100,000 penalty. I'm trying to be real nice about it. First time, next time you send me another one of these, I'm going to send you back. Next one you send, I'm going to consider your behavior fraud, and I'm going to notice them that you've been harassing me. This is harassment. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to see how they like a little proactive, and they're not going to like it. Because what do you think the CFO and the president of that company is going to do with those offers? He's got to go give it to an attorney to handle, to operate. He's got 10 days. He ain't going to like it at all. Any more than Walmart liked it. But see, I don't want to use this stuff in a negative fashion. I want to be honorable. They're only doing their job. They're attempting to keep riffraff out. She's gotten her second notice. She did get a phone call, but that technically doesn't count. But we responded to it. She's gotten one written notice, a phone call, and then a second written notice. So out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, I'll see what they do with this other one that's just a teens firmer. I'd like to see if we can't be a little gentle with the situation first. If Chase continues with it. Now, the docks up in Wisconsin, which are different than the docks in Cincinnati, they had one of their banks, he called me and said, Gordon, these guys are sending me notices 2-3 of them a day. And they did for like a week. They sent notices 2-3 a day. Kind of like what you're talking about. He said, what'll I do? I said, just bundle them all up and put them in one thing and send them all back. All right? Because they're being silly, and all they're doing is just trying to frustrate me. I said, if it continues on, we'll take other action. But, let's in the meantime, let's go ahead and answer them. And if it goes past this, we'll just bundle them all up. And that's what I said before. I said, just bundle them. The next day, you bundle them up. And if send a certified mailer for each and every one.
So you bundle them all up, and then do you have to point by point apply
Now I
each
just
thing?
put it in and say something else. I forgot what I said, but I had to come up with something that causes them to think twice about continuing on in that capacity. Remembering that they're not going to like it if you go on the proactive side of it, because the last thing you want me to do is start sending a bunch of you've done this, you owe this, and start sending it to all sorts of employees, start leaning employees up, and bank, store managers and district managers and all that. I kept the Walmart to the president and the store manager only, just kind of sort of little personal stuff. And that's why I tried to get the guy in California for the DEA do the guys personally.
Right.
He's afraid to come. I said, no, they respect this stuff. If they're as I say it is, he said. I talked to him at lunch break. I said, how you doing, Jeff? He says, I'm trying. He says, I think I'll be ready Monday, but right now I'm just trying to get used to it. I said, hey, it's at your leisure. I don't pressure him either way because they might come and put pressure on him. And I don't want him to feel he has to make the decision for himself. Because without the faith on himself, he might suffer the consequences. I said, what do you think if you go after the warden? That's not a real bright thing to do if they're not going to obey the law. I mean, they got guards. They could sick on you, a bunch of redneck guards, and make your life miserable, throw all your stuff away. They do that all the time. I don't think they do it to my stuff, and nor did they. But, like when guys riot in a prison, they lock them all away, and they take everything of yours, photo albums, everything, just throw it in the dumpster. You riot, you pay, I promise you. They make you pay. So we got to try and get these guys' attention some way. They're just crazy. But this get back to contract law. If you hear it, it's all contracts. We got to get you so you understand it's nothing more than offer and acceptance. Everything they say is an offer. I'm going to throw you in jail. I'm going to do this. It's an offer. It's some kind of an offer. It doesn't appear that way, and it strikes you funny inside, but really it is an offer. So if you get it to me or Jack or somebody, we can help you understand it's an offer. Juanita gets some stuff. She said, what is it? I said, it's just an offer. It's okay. We do this. Because she's just getting into this. She hasn't done one of those before. So it's new to her. And I know what it's like to have something new. It's not a negative. It's perfectly normal. And it's perfectly normal for all of you not to have a real grasp of what we've been talking about. We need some practical experience, but we're kind of getting a little broad brush. But in reality, before we get done tomorrow, you should understand very simply, it's just some of these doors to go through. You're only going to do the first 2 doors, and which I don't forgot which one, but it's 99% of the time it's conditional acceptance. 99% of the time. Rarely am I going to go straight acceptance, except vacate the order or discharge me or something like that. Or you won the lottery, I accept. That's about it. But it's otherwise, it truly is about 99% of the time conditional acceptance. Because what they're offering me is not something I like. To arrest me, to be guilty of a ticket, to whatever. So all we got to do is get you all a little buffed up on a few things. 1, 2, 3, administrative proceeding. Juanita has an administrative notice article. My sister managed that little one off just reading that. A total layman, high school graduate. She got no input from me on that. She got it off of that. You can run your stuff, by Juanita or me or something, and each other. You're going to get quick on this real fast. So the sooner y'all just jump in and start writing some of these things. And it'd be nice if we took an exercise to do it, but tomorrow we can go through a little 3-parter. Let's get you down on it so that you just really understand how simple it is. We could talk about lots of things, but I'm here to talk about what you want to be taught and stuff. But if you can just get your mind around the most important thing, is you got a 3-part process. But who the court really is. This is the hardest part. How to file things into a court or with somebody. All right. So if you've got a judge in there, whenever that prosecutor sends something to the judge and you get the invite via summons, process service, whatever, in the mail, whichever, you've got to respond and send it back up, showing that you sent all that to him. Your enemy. Not your enemy, your remedy.
Adversary.
Your adversary. And you got to agree with them quickly. And the only way to agree is with conditional acceptance or a straight acceptance, and we're not agreeing to indictment or any other thing, or to have our child support modified or any of that.
I just figured out something from what you said earlier about how the lawyer cannot respond in writing when you send in something commercial document. So I've heard this term negative averment all over and over, and I never understood why does that work, but that's why. They say there's no evidence of such and such. They have nothing to say about it.
A real important concept in law that we're going to go into a little bit tomorrow is referencing what's referred to as a negative averment. Because you remember, we can't prove anything, right? To clarify that,
Well, you can agree on the facts.
I'm telling you, you killed Abraham Lincoln in 1865. Can you prove you didn't?
I can agree with you for purposes of our contract.
A lot of guys say, I'm not old enough.
Right.
Look at him. Is he old enough?
Sure.
He tells you he ain't old enough. I say the dude looks young for his age.
Thank you.
He's got a birth certificate. I got one here says he is that old. Can't prove anything. If you can get that but most important, that goes scripturally. To prove something's to accuse your brother, isn't it? So you can't accuse somebody. So if you can get where you understand that the onus probandi, the onus probandi has to be switched. Burden of proving. And if we agree and you can get in your mind that you can't prove anything, you quit saying, well, I got evidence, I got this, I got that shows it. Let's say that you saw me aiming a gun over here at somebody way over there.
Don't use that example.
Well, that's a good one that Victoria has. And you hear the gun go off and the guy drops. Can you testify that I killed him?
No.
No, all you can testify to is you saw me holding what looked like a gun, unless it was a gun. Looked like a gun, you heard a loud report, and you saw the guy drop. You don't know if I aimed behind him and someone from back shot him, or he died of a heart attack before he did. So maybe I caused him to die, maybe I didn't. Maybe there's a hidden sniper and that's who I was aiming at. It's kind of interesting when you start looking at what was really said. She does a good job of that. Victoria's really cool with that way she talks about some of that stuff. I like that. She's a gal that does some seminar stuff with her way of doing it.
Victoria Joy.
Victoria Joy. So some of her stuff I really like. And I went to one of her seminars, and I can say I'm glad I did.
She was doing conditional acceptance
She
a
does a
long
lot of
time ago.
conditional acceptance
Yeah.
stuff. I haven't heard her in a year, so I don't know what the latest stuff.
She's about honor and dishonor.
Yeah.
Knowing how to go in.
Because I heard
Yeah.
I heard about her stuff like in 2003, so she's been doing it for a while.
I don't know where she is last I heard. I don't know where she is regarding
I can give you the contact.
merits.
Cool.
But at that time, she wasn't discussing any of that. Just conditional acceptances, which in a sense it is. But it's important to understand, she's big on having your Louisville Slugger and your paperwork just, weighing it just a bunch to get them. And really, to me, it's not a big deal. Because it's all about your actions that are going to do it. Your words are going to carry the day. Because when I set off the probation, I used a Social Security account. Well, that technically isn't viable, but they kept it, right? They kept the bond drawn on a Social Security account number. So, who cares? They didn't. They kept it and agreed that it was set off. Right?
I think I'm going to do my next setup. Let's go off.
You could. I mean, that's the whole thing. The rule is if somebody keeps it or exercises when they've had the opportunity to return it, then there's acceptance. And acceptance is something that forms a binding contract. So when you get that in your mind, those basics, you don't have to get all this stuff memorized. You just get the basics. You give somebody a notice, give them an opportunity to fix it, and after that, they're in dishonor. You notice them, it's done. Did you tell them in your notice you're going to put a UCC against them all? You don't have to, but you could. I like to put it in there. But you don't have to. Think about how the IRS does it. They don't tell you, this may result in a UCC being filed against you or a notice of lien or levy. They often tell you, notice of intent to levy. Well, that is a, kind kind of a notice. They're going to levy you.
But the notice is already there in the tax code, isn't it?
In the what?
In the tax code.
Who care? What care I the tax code, right? It's just where they gave you a notice, due process, 1, 2, 3 step. They send you a letter, send you another letter, probably a third and a fourth usually even. They're pretty good about it. They're experts at what we call administrative procedures, because that's court. They're good at it. So you can just plagiarize and follow. Some of the stuff you get from these people, you put back in your stuff.
It doesn't matter what's in the code. Like I was listening to Brandon a couple of days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. He said, in order for them to enforce the code, they have to mention it to you in a notice. That's when it starts to apply to you. And he says, if you ever see notices out, and I went outside of the building, it says no smoking, and then it has the statute that applies, Revised Code of Washington, blah blah blah. But why do they put that? Why do they even mention the code there? According to Brandon, they have to mention the code, otherwise it doesn't apply to you. They have to give you notice.
Well, it doesn't apply to you unless you're a U.S. citizen subject to statutes and codes anyway.
Right.
Rather than disrespect people and do so, you pick your battles. So, but the burden of proving is where it's all at. That's where you got to shift that, because you can't prove anything. And once you get that in your minds, 4 doors and switch to burden of proving and how you do it in the form of a negative averment and a couple of basics, and you plagiarize some people's documents, you can handle your own. You'll be able to start filing your own up rickety split. You get a copy of Terry Kelly's and a copy of this one and that one. You God, I can do that. Yeah. My sister's, which is kind of simple, and that one kind of simple. They're really just kind of saying things, stating some facts. Whether you want to put a affidavit of negative averment with it remains up to you. In a criminal case, I do it in there. In all this stuff privately, I don't worry about it. IRS doesn't do it. I don't need to do it either. So anyway, what time is it?
5 to 8.
Okay. We'll wrap up for the night. Catch you in the morning. Y'all enjoy dinner.
Thanks.
We'll get started. If you'd like to hit on something early tomorrow, I think, or we're going to do some practical exercise if you'd like to, because you need to see a little confrontation, a little role playing, if you'd like.
Did you notice there was no "you're welcome"? I never said thank yous.
Y'all are great. So.
Can you check out these stamps?
Stamp.
It's painted in this Richmond. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The editing.
Sure, if you're going to put the trademark on it, put the trademark on it.
If not, oh, it's okay. I'm just gonna let it ride. I'm good that way. And then that's right.
All right.
Can you say what those 3 things were again? Notice of fault, notice of default, and what was the first one?
The first one I do in a general thing is a notice private international remedy demand. Second one's notice of fault opportunity hearing. Third one's notice of fault, default and dishonor. And they don't have to even be entitled that. What you're doing there is simply giving due process, a 3-part process, giving a person plenty of opportunity to know what's going on. It's only fair. If you did somebody wrong and they sent you a notice and you didn't get it, wouldn't it be nice if they sent you a second notice that says, brother, in case it was a mistake, oversight, or you missed it, here's another copy of what I sent you. You backed into my car, you need to fix it, or I'm going to have it done and send you the bill.
Could it just be notice 1, 2, 3?
Could just, IRS doesn't even number them. They just send you a first, a second, and a third. There's not even an entitlement on it. I just entitle it because it's pretty blatant and clear. And I know what I'm saying with it. Although, like I've seen one of my other students, one of the Visa cards sent him a notice he owed X amount of money. A month later, they sent the identical notice, but had a different date on it. That's the second notice. All it is giving your brother an opportunity to fix his mistake. They don't say this is your first and your second and your third generally. They just send you 1 or 2 or 3, and if there's a problem, they want to take you into a public court. They submit their record on the private side that you get this notice, and this notice. They just say it. No, they don't have a certificate of service with it or anything else. But then you start arguing they did not give it to me. They argue they did. It's 2 debtors, and the judge will do what's best in the name of public policy. Because that's what he's going to do. And that means he's going to side with the bank usually. Because that's the proper thing to do for public policy. We can't just let everybody deny they got anything. It's better serves the public if we do this and hammer the sheep. He's just doing his job. So there can be order to all this chaos. We were talking here a little bit ago about law and understanding things. Ignorance of law is no excuse or excuses no one. Some of you have heard that saying before. When I was learning about it, how could ignorance of law excuse no one? Man, there's 60 million codes, rules, and laws, right? How can you possibly know it? That doesn't make sense, so everybody just ignores it. But if you replace the word law with contract, then it made a lot of sense to me that ignorance of contract is no excuse. You should be held accountable to every contract you enter. Would you not agree, or would you?
No.
Absolutely. If you tell me you're going to do something, I expect you to do it. And how would you tell me? You could tell me in a lot of ways. You want to borrow the car? Look, I got to go out at 4 o'clock. Just make sure it's back here by 3. Well, I didn't tell him I was going to do that. Did you take the keys? And did you leave his statement uncountered? Yeah? Well, then you made an agreement, didn't you? We were talking about getting people out of jail. A maxim I like is, as a thing is bound, so it is unbound. So when we're trying to analyze people's false documents and things they say, and I get different stuff all the time myself. I get John Stewart's a prime example. He sends me this stuff with all these inflammatory statements and comments. I said, what are you doing with this? He said, well, that part's true. I said, well, why did so much of it's pure inflammatory rhetoric? What are you doing? Well, I said, why would I like it? Why do I want to waste it? Why do I want to clutter my mind with it? All I do is read long enough to see some guy's full of crap, and I go on to something else. I don't finish it. I don't need to finish it. What could he be saying when I consider the bulk of what he said? From my point of view, that doesn't mean everybody's stuff that comes in is that. How else do you think I learn? Some documents I just love studying, cooperative federalism, and other documents. James Allen, the stuff that I like or makes sense to me that goes in with my belief and understanding. It has to be simpler, or how could we be held accountable that ignorance of law is no excuse or excuses no one? So law's got to be simple. To me, it doesn't get any simpler than 4 doors. It's all contracts, offer and acceptance. God, that's nice. That makes sense to me. All these gurus that talk about these esoteric concepts and complicated things, it's very difficult for the lay person to understand. And you just stay perennially lost. How can you get remedy if you don't know what's going on? And it's got to be simple. That's what I keep coming back to. Or ignorance of law excuses no one is not a maxim that makes sense. And those maxims have been around entirely too long not to make good sense. And it made sense when I replaced the word with contract, because that we all agree with. So, therefore, and then in a 1906 set of law books I read, it said almost the whole procedure of human life implies, or rather is, the continual fulfillment of contracts. And then all law emanates from, and I pondered those things. days and weeks and months, and some in case years, on and off. What else could it be? People aren't naturally slaves. The 13th Amendment, there'd be no involuntary servitude, right? Makes sense? So it's got to be voluntary. So when Robert Bork, Supreme Court Justice nominee, says everybody in prison volunteered to go, and then an interesting thing is, coming back to contract, there was a young chaplain by the name of Richards at Terminal Island, which is a prison I was at, about probably a 38-year-old guy. Wife, 2 kids, part of the Army Reserves. He gets called up. My buddy counsels him. He says, quit signing everything. You guys just sign everything without reading it. Don't we all do that? Mortgage paperwork, we just sign it. Insurance forms, we just sign. We don't read it. It's kind of cool. I got this little car. I go into the dealership, and you're paying for it. They have you sign it. And on it says, the price may change, and you're approving it can change without your permission. I said, why would I sign that? She said, well, we just have everybody sign it. I said, well, that's really nice, but I'm not everybody. So what am I signing? You agreed to change the oil for $32. You're going to change it for $32, aren't you? That's what I agreed to. It just gets really strange. People are just used to signing whatever they put in front of you. So, that's what happens. Those are adhesion contracts, take it or leave it, and these long things. But we tell this chaplain, read your stuff. He ends up leaving. Now, when you're working in a nice fed prison, you got good pay. When you go into the Army, active Army, you get a cut in pay, and you're being sent to Iraq and all that stuff. He gets to the staging area somewhere in Missouri or Mississippi or something, and they got a bunch of the guys in the room, and they're having all fill out paperwork and sign everything, and on it says, you're volunteering to go. And he says, I'm not signing that. So he crosses it out and initials it. He's going to go. He's not arguing. He's a good, patriotic guy. He thinks he's supposed to go. He's in the reserves. He's not fine to go, but he's sure the hell ain't going to say he's volunteering when he's in. He's saying he has to go. They came and they had a little discussion with him at the table. He says, I'm not signing it. I'm not volunteering. I'll go. I don't have a problem. I'll initial that and sign. He said, you're out of here. He called back to the prison saying, tell Blankenship, that's my buddy, that stuff really works. Contract law really works. What a revelation. But it was to him. When he got back, I asked him, and he told me the story. What he didn't realize is he did volunteer to go, didn't he? When did he volunteer to go?
When he signed up.
Huh?
He signed up.
When he signed up for the reserves, which said, we may do this to you, that to you. Nobody made him go sign up in the reserves, so he technically did volunteer to go. But he couldn't get off stuck. I'm not volunteering, I'll go, but I'm not going to do. And they didn't want this argument there, and they could see that he wasn't doing it to be recalcitrant or difficult. He just believed that nobody's going to tell him you volunteered, that we could do anything we want to you. Send you off to war, inject you full of syphilis if we want to see what it does to you, like they did in World War II with a class of guys. Anything else? Being part of the democracy is not a good thing. Once you understand what a democracy is, and that you volunteered into that, and what it means, that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So when they knocked the trade center down, that was good business. All that work that jobs got hired, took some of that office space out, got rid of a bunch of records.
That's funny.
Scared the hell out of the public.
But it served so many uses. Does anybody ever wonder that after the 2001 911, the credit got so easy it was pathetic? Gives some credence to the fact every 70 or 77 years they destroy the records, right? The nation comes out of debt. You think this government told the banks, hey, no more income qualifying, no tax returns, nothing? What do you think was going to happen? Like you didn't think homes were going to go up 3, 4, 5-fold? I go to prison in 99 with homes normal price. I come out and junkers are worth $500,000. Well, what is this? What kind of society is this? you know, entrees at restaurants for $5, gas was $1. I come out, it's $4.50 a gallon. I said, this is unbelievable. Whoa, this is sticker shock. But when you think about what that accomplished, it was a good thing. Sounds like a bad thing to have 3,000 people die, but you know, we're going to serve the community's needs. It's just 3,000 people. Pretty ugly sounding, isn't it? Bitches belong to democracy, I'm going to tell you. But they had a right to do what they want with their property. Because they were able to supply how many jobs to protect all of you that go through airports with all these nuts that are putting gas in their shoes and other crazy stuff. Want a moment of glory and all these other things. They're crazy out there. Are they not? As a general rule, the mass is truly crazy. They're not conscious. They don't know who they are. They don't even know where they live, do they? So don't tell me they're not crazy. They're crazy. They don't know who they are. They don't know who they aren't. They don't know where they live. They don't even know that the United States is not even a country. That it's a federal corporation. And that they're selling their birthright for a pot of porridge. Your state citizenship for U.S. citizenship? Have you gone crazy? Look up Title 18. 18 U.S.C. Section 242. I'm an alien. Oh, they're going to deport you. Let me see. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, or custom willfully subjects any person in a state, territory, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different pains, punishments, or penalties on account of such person being an alien, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 1 year, or both.
Yep.
Is that what it says?
That's what it says. That's what it says. You want to see it, or you want me to
No.
pass it? Yeah, it says that.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Title 5, 552A, in the footnotes. Anybody that deprives anybody of any right, benefit, or privilege on account of failure to disclose a Social Security account number is guilty of a felony. Why do you think Walmart settled?
And you have to give them notice of that.
Sure, otherwise it can assume and presume all sorts of stuff. You have to give notice. It's only fair. Should I be allowed to shoot you because you stepped on my property? No. That's why you get in trouble for it. Post it. No trespassing. Violators may be shot. You get shot in there and see if you can, whether you can stick it. You're not.
We were talking earlier, what if I take my title to my home and give it to the county? Can I still post a private property notice?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. You need to get a lodial title. But I think you could still post private property, personally. Let them disprove it. I say it's mine. You want to say it belongs to the county? Say it. Can't prove anything. I'm here. I say it's mine. The chess set. We talked about that. Where'd it come from? It came from the rec department there at the prison. So how can I get a 40,000 lien? Because I said it's mine. That's why. Belongs to the government, right? Who's the government? Me. So I figured it's mine. Maybe I'm a little too logical. It sure ain't that dude's. He's nothing but a caretaker of the warehouse. Who's this government? I know, I thought I was. Wouldn't matter anyway. The guy agreed to pay 40 grand for a plastic chess set that I said was mine. That's good enough. You say tomato, I say tomato. It doesn't matter. This being sovereign is going to be an ugly thing for a lot of people, being responsible for themselves. That's why Ben Franklin said it. What have you given us? A republic if you can keep it. And Aldous Huxley in 1932 in Brave New World in the forward section of that book. in conjunction with the freedom to daydream under the influence of dope and movies and the radio, it will help to reconcile his subjects to the servitude which is their fate.
Yeah.
Your fate is servitude. That's why you got radio, TV, and drugs for you, illegal or otherwise. So you can cope with this servitude that just would drive any normal person crazy. When I got out of the prison, I told the ex, I said, man, I can't do supervised release. Are you kidding? Can't. I'm not built that way. I'm going to sit here and file reports and monthly reports and be told where I can work and this, that, and the other thing. Now I'm talking to one kid who's thinking about being a student, and he's on supervised release, and kid, he's 50, and he's he says he's on state supervised release. He can't even move in with his girlfriend. He can't travel out of this area without permission, do that, do this. Everybody's different on their supervised release. I said, man, that's brutal. I said, no kidding. So it's really interesting what goes on with people. I was up at Terminal Island, and one of the guys came to me and said, man, I don't have supervised release. They just called me to R&D and said I have to do it. I said, you ain't got to do it. If you're just not in the thing, you don't have to do it. He said, well, they're telling me they're not going to release me. I says, okay. 3 weeks later, they call him in again. You have to sign these papers. He says, I don't have any supervised release, and I ain't signing them. 3 weeks later, he was due to leave. You know what happened? They let him go. They just seen if they could get him to sign up for it. And one really interesting one is a boy that named Gary something, in for 50 years for a white-collar deal. They offered him a 5-year plea deal. He didn't take it, so they gave him 50 years. Mm. He fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. He's in about 5 years when the Supreme Court ruled in his favor and vacated the case. Attorneys gave him notice that his case had been vacated. He was all ecstatic, running around telling all of us. I said, what are you still doing here then? He said, well, the attorney said, it's going to take about 30 days. I said, man, I don't know I didn't know that. I said, I don't know, man. If they vacated the case, you should be out of here. I said, I think you got to do something with that. I don't know what. And I didn't at that time. I said, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that notice of vacating the case. But I think you got to do something with it. And I don't know what.
Accept?
Yeah, you should have done a straight acceptance on it for set-off settlement and closure of the account and send it back. But his attorneys at the end of 30 days said, well, wait 60, then 90, then, well, after 180 days, then 180, he got transferred to another prison. When I got out, I talked to Jack about it. He said, oh, man, yeah, he should have. And I thought about, oh, yeah, he screwed up royal. He was out.
Waived his rights.
Yeah, he had attorneys.
Is he still in?
I don't know. He left, and I didn't follow after that. But if you're still there 6 months after the Supreme Court vacated your case, you're probably still there. Maybe not. But I'm going to tell you shouldn't have been there, 6 days after the case is vacated, should you? But he didn't accept it for settlement and closure. But his attorneys, they had it handled. They got him that far. So he kept his faith in the attorneys. So you see so much strange stuff out there, but all I could see for this game of rules is it's got to be contracts. And it comes off of hundreds and hundreds of cases and deals and things I've seen. Now, is seeing believing? Dan the man?
Is seeing believing?
Yeah.
My initial reaction is to say
Initial reaction, good. But in reality, is it? We know that Siegfried and Roy in Las Vegas make lions and tigers disappear. That's a fact. I've been to the show many times. I'll tell you, they make them disappear. But we know that's an illusion. Seeing is not believing, but it's just another thing we've been told. Theory, the systematic statement of principles involved. Now that has validity. Hypothesis doesn't, but theory does. Well, that's just a theory. Yeah, really? See what we've been taught? You go out and you buy life insurance. Is that life insurance or death insurance? Is it health insurance or sickness insurance? Everything's backwards. That's okay. They tell John Stewart he didn't have to come to the hearing the next morning. He didn't. They just arrested him and threw him in jail so he couldn't fight and win. That's what that was all about. Wow. Because he wouldn't have been out to do it. And I tell him, hey, you better not go back to jail. Because I'm not going to go get all that stuff and do it for you. You're going to have to do it.
Oh, my question. Oh yeah. You talked about earlier about your families, because I know you have kids as well. So I guess my concern is if, you know, like we're into this and we're kind of worried, what would you, like, how would we protect our family?
Well, that's a good point. Should you enter into this stuff, right? Because they might come and get your kids thinking you're like a traitor or something, right? It's because you don't understand. That's the only reason they're going to come. Whose kids are they right now as U.S. citizens? I don't know about Canada, but U.S. citizens. Child Protective Services take the kids away from the families all the time, don't they? What do we have this thing down in Texas with the church group? They 400 kids, not Waco, but they took 400 kids.
Yeah, from, somewhere in
Some guy living in, you know, this church group and all this stuff down in Texas. They took like 400 kids away from the families there. Yeah, that kind of thing. Now, why could they do that? Because nobody put in a claim for the children. They're all born on the compound. They had church records. They all went out and got attorneys and stuff. The only thing that's going to save you and your kids is they're your kids, not the state's kids. So when the state comes around and says, excuse me, Jane, yes? Well, we've got an order here for your children. We need to take them away. Because we think your hair's too long. Yeah, I'm happy to let you do that upon proof of claim, blah, blah, blah. Or who are you or whatever else. But the only thing that's going to, in my opinion, save your family is that you are involved in this. The government does label you as a sovereign, as not a debtor, as a creditor. A debtor is one who is owed something, right? Creditors. Well, this government owes me to protect and do and stuff. We established it. You all think if you're paying like you owe them, Social Security and the rest of that, you're the one with a problem. In America, being a U.S. citizen, I think it's a bad situation. Today, you're only wearing 20 pounds of change, but don't worry, another decade, they'll be 30 pounds. Because the decade, 2-3 decades ago, there was only like 5 pounds of chains. We go back far enough, there wasn't any change from government in that aspect. It wasn't even until, what, the 30s or right around Prohibition, 21 Prohibition, that the feds got their foot in every state. But it was necessary the feds get their foot in every state. The states were dealing with people like Al Capone that were running the state and running it like their own little fiefdom. Killing people, doing what they wanted. Can't have that. And the states aren't going to do it, then the feds need to come in and do it, don't they? And they have, and they do. What do you think keeps a lot of these, reins in a lot of these political guys on the state level? Get federally indicted and charged.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know what some of these questions come from, but for me, you know, with herd animals, if you're part of the herd, you feel safety, right? Like you don't feel, you don't think about my family or something. So when you, you're not part of the herd and you're trying to become more
That's
awake,
human
more
nature.
aware, and actually open your eyes, then you like experience more
This
fear.
is where you're going to have to get a testimony yourself that you understand God and His servants, the government, and this America and Canada, that there's a republic and there's a democracy in those countries. And when you're in the republic, you're safe. But when you're in the democracy, you're not safe at all. We've got a little article right there. Anarchy, that's all. Now, picture, do you think the judges want you to win this stuff? Do you think the judges like it when you come into their courtroom and talk and spew this stuff? Huh?
If you're respectful, they might.
Hold on. I don't know. Let's try and think logically. Democracies result is anarchy. What's anarchy? No government, right? In this context.
Chaos.
Chaos, no government, right?
Mob rule.
Nobody's safe. Do you think the judges want anarchy?
So not safe.
Don't you think they love their children, their neighbors, their friends? There might be an aberrant judge or two that's a misanthrope, hates everybody. But that would be an exception, not the rule. And you're not going to get a stay of judge when things go to hell anyway. There's going to be nothing left to judge. It's going to be mob rule, people shooting. You're not going to be able to go out and eat at a restaurant and all that. You're going to have 10 bodyguards because they're going to be trying to kill the judges, right? Anybody, because that's what mobs and crazy people do. And a republic, justice, contentment, and progress. You think he's not a just judge? I got news for you, he is. So, now that we can think logically, what would make you think a judge would be offended at what you're doing? Only because it seems like maybe. But in reality, do you have the one with Yane?
Yep.
I think it's right here. No.
I think I gave it to you.
You gave it to me, but you may have put it back.
I did.
I had a gal named Yane. She's married to a guy who did a bunch of this stuff in court. And I have to pick up from her is her some transcripts and a video she picked up for me of her husband doing this. And this is what she said to me. When her husband would go into court, now he's on his 4th time doing this. He's staring at 10.5 to 25 years state charge in Arizona. He kept going in, and every time he'd come in, he'd say, "For the record and on the record, I want the court to know that I come in peace. All things stated are stated without prejudice. All rights are reserved, restored, and never wavered." And that's why he'd come in. And then whenever the judge got hostile, he'd repeat that. And he always used to come in with his wife and 2 other notaries. And they were always dressed in black, and he'd dress in white. You know, very theatrical, but nonetheless effective. And whenever the judge would say something, he said, he accepts for value, honor, and consideration according to House Joint Resolution 192, Public Policy 7310, Title 31, Section 5118. I accept for value the court proceedings for full settlement and closure of case number so-and-so, exempt from levy and lien. She said, like he repeated like 30 times. Wow. And they'd say, scratch, scratch, just, she's telling me all this stuff going on, and they're going to get me the transcripts that she's got them. I haven't picked them up. And whenever an attorney comes, he said, "Can you please state your name and bar number for the record?" And the attorney would answer it. And then he'd say, "Let the record reflect that I accept for value, for full assessment of the charges, Jason Johannes, bar number so-and-so, for full assessment of the charges." What's your bar number? "I'm accepting that for full assessment of the charges. Let the record show that." And the attorney would go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, recess." Kind of interesting. And the judge and prosecutor said they ended up disqualifying themselves from the case. Got transferred to another judge. Then they got a new indictment stating a true bill. And he accepted that for value and set off, and put into the record, set to Puerto Rico, and they did all sorts of weird stuff. Eventually, they when he was doing all this, he filed a federal lawsuit against these state judges and prosecutors, and they then wanted to settle with him. And I got a copy of the suit. So, and they wanted to settle with him, and instead of 10.5 years, they agreed to 6 months. And they said, make an offer, and they went back and forth and telling me it all. But the long and the short, they knew that this was the judge's last case. The judge was retiring after this. And this was her general words, according to Yane. Just wonderful words. Brandon said they were beautiful words, Jack, everybody. Judge says something like this. You did a really good job. You did an excellent job representing yourself. I want to commend you on the way you behaved yourself. You and your wife stuck to your guns, and you did it with honor. So I'm going to accept the 6 months contract you signed. And may the Most High, he used to refer to God as the Most High, and may the Most High continue to bless you and your family. And this was a phenomenal way for me to retire. Now, either she made all of this up, including my buddy who got thrown in jail, Seehausen, when he did the supervised release with the judge after 7 hearings. The judge just said, we ought to get together sometime. He actually went back and had a Christmas dinner with him. The judge took him to the Union Club. And the judge affirmed to him that he did everything, all the things that he did right, he told him he did right. He wouldn't tell him anything new or give him any disclosure about things not. But he told him, you asking questions all the time was good. He told him all the things that he did good that was good. And he said, you did a lot of things wrong too, but you did a lot of things good. Very interesting. So, do we have some circumstantial evidence or hearsay from people that tell us that in fact, using logic about democracies and republic and using some of this hearsay from their lips to my ears, people that were actually there, my buddy 1 in Chicago, and 2, this gal that came to my place to discuss her husband, and then has the rest of the stuff for me and gave me the court case and the rest, the indictment that they filed, the rest of that. Can I have some basis to believe? I have a strong basis to believe, and coupled with that, and using good sense, that these judges would love to see you succeed. They want you to succeed. They want you to and I to wake up. Because none of us are going to have anything if we don't. They're smart guys. They're not stupid. They're smart guys and gals. They're not stupid. They understand law, contracts. They do it all the time. It's very, very exciting to see that, in fact, they're for you. I don't care if you think he's angry at you or what's that. No, he isn't. He really isn't. It's just a game. He's there testing you. He wants you to succeed as much as you want to succeed. They say all sorts of strange things all the time. Just before John's, when we were in there, why would the judge tell us while sitting out in the audience? He knew. He goes, I'm just a facilitator. He didn't say it for that dude. He said it for us. I'm just a facilitator. He got some of that stuff we did. It was great to watch. Did you get this, prosecutor? Did you get this, man? Yes. I've got originals here. I got to let it in. Why would he need to tell us that? They always giving us hints and telling us. We have to listen. And based on Yane's comments, based on Seehausen's comments, and based on that, and my overall, if they're God's servants, this is God's. God would see to it there was a way for all of us in this, the promised land of milk and honey. It all makes good sense to me. Am I wrong? The problem is I keep winning everything. And so it may be a weird way to look at it, but so far it just makes absolute sense to me. And I don't know any other way to view it. If God is the creator, he would have provided a way. We are in the promised land, all of us in America, whether it be North America or what have you. We got it made. These servants, these governments are beautiful. These aren't communist governments. Was World War I necessary and World War II? Look what it did. Remember, the sun never sat on the English Empire. They controlled like 3/4 of the planet at one time. Do you know that? That's big. Then they don't anymore. Oh, we're all still subservient to the Queen. What are you talking about? Everybody said, "Yeah, I know you don't remember when Japan was buying all that." Well, they're going to take all the buildings and everything in America. They're going to own it. I said they're just going to be turned into taxpayers. That's all they're going to be, paying property tax and vacant buildings and maintenance on them and every other thing. The system's perfect.
Yeah, what does that mean when they say, "Oh, China owns a certain amount of the U.S. or Japan or whatever"? It's
What
all
do they own?
fiat-
They
it's
own
all
a bunch
fiat.
of. All they have is like a few, maybe a trillion or two of the debt. Big deal. From a bankrupt entity, right? Like Traficant said, this is the largest Chapter 11 in the history of mankind, or bankruptcy in the history of mankind. Why would China try and do anything with it? They need someone to buy their stuff and keep their people working. You think they don't got problems? You think this country don't have problems? Try herding 307 million cats. That's what you're dealing with here. It's a great deal. Man, it is truly a perfect system, whole and complete. There's something for all of us. For those that want slavery, it's there. These judges are for you. I'm telling you from my heart, they are good people. They're just contract experts. This government is good. This IRS is good. All these people that whine and revile, they violate James Allen stuff, they violate God's word, all of it. And I'm guilty as anybody else of whining and reviling of things and this and that in the past too. I like to be a better person. But isn't it nice to know that this government is going to mark you as a sovereign? They're not going to come after you and your kids. Why would they? They want you to succeed. They're not going to tolerate lukewarm, double-minded people. God tells you, don't be lukewarm, man. Hey, be a sinner and get in the world, or get over here with me. Make your choice whom you're going to serve. You going to serve God or not? You got faith? I'm telling you, when you start practicing this contract law stuff, it can't do anything to you. You do it all to yourself. It's like the most refreshing, most beautiful thing. So as soon as you can get a good grasp on it, and we've got to try and get you there, it's really not very complicated. It seems like it because it's new things to you. Oh, what do you call that first step? What do you call it? Ease up. It'll be okay. Get a few samples and you practice a little, and pretty soon you go, God, I can call it we call some of them constructive notice private international remedy demand. Some of them are notice private international remedy demand. Not a big deal. Hell, it could just say first notice on it, second notice, third notice. It doesn't got to say notice of fault, opportunity cure. It can say second notice. Well, it don't get any plainer than that.
Hey, you there.
Hey, you. Hello, how are you?